Hello and welcome to our presentation. Our names are Jennifer Robinson and Alana Guilfoyle, and today we will be talking about an interview that we conducted with a social care practitioner. The information we obtained from this interview will be presented in the style of Ps4B16. We will be referring to our interviewee as James.
To prepare for this presentation, we interviewed a 60-year-old male from the northwest of Ireland. Upon leaving school, he wasn't sure what he wanted to pursue. He had stayed in school until he was 18 and obtained a leaving cert, which was unusual at the time. And so he spent some time volunteering in the locality, working with members of the travelling community. From this, he went on to work in the homeless sector of social care for over 40 years.
While James was in school, a local priest was appointed as the Director of Social Services. This same priest used to visit the school that James attended during 5th and 6th year, and he had got to know him very well. This priest approached James and asked him to help to do some voluntary works for him, which James started doing after he finished his leaving certificate. This inspired our interviewee to continue pursuing the area of social care work as his full-time profession.
When James left school, social care was not seen as a notable profession. There were no formal qualifications provided by the education institutions in Ireland in the likes of social care or youth work. This is because it was viewed as though a volunteer would do the jobs for free anyway. James went on to do a degree in early childhood care and education, as this seemed the most relevant to what he wanted to pursue.
The voluntary job that James started after his leaving certificate was helping to collect and deliver furniture to members of the travelling community who were living along the roadside. As James had a keen interest in working with vulnerable people in the community, he eventually went back to the priest and asked him for a paid, full-time job, and he was employed as an administrator in social services.
James worked as the accommodation manager for the homeless sector in the same social services for the next 40 years. His role in the organisation was to coordinate and oversee the running of the homeless services throughout a number of strands. This included overseeing 3 hostels: long-term accommodation for homeless men, short-term accommodation for homeless men and women, and emergency accommodation for families.
Threshold concepts may be considered to be akin to passing through a portal or conceptual gateway that opens up previously inaccessible ways of thinking about something. This is referring to a learner changing his or her perception of a situation by experiencing it firsthand.
In terms of threshold concepts, James alluded to the fact that he saw a slight change in the way that the travelling community lived in the area. They started to integrate more into the community by allowing their children to make their Holy Communion and to be confirmed with the rest of the community. They were still not prepared to let their children go to secondary school, but they stayed in education until the end of primary school with the mainstream children.
Rural practice refers to when a person works in a smaller town and therefore has access to fewer resources. There is also a possibility that the worker is well known in the area in relation to their line of work.
In terms of rural practice, James felt that it was very beneficial to his work. He explained that he was on a first-name basis with many of the people working in the services in the community. Therefore, there was a lot of mutual professional respect throughout his working years. He could lift the phone and contact them without having to explain his work. He was also aware of the negatives surrounding rural practice, such as service users knowing him in the community.
A dual relationship usually occurs when a professional works and lives in the same area. This is when the professional may know somebody outside of work and that they begin to access the services in the organisation that the professional works in. This can make the service user or the care professional very uncomfortable.
As James worked in the same town as he lived, dual relationships regularly occurred. James would always make sure that the service user was happy with the professional relationship between them, and that they knew that James was bound to confidentiality. If they were not satisfied with this, James would not let them leave the office until he had organised another suitable service worker to take the case for him.
Vicarious trauma refers to a professional feeling distressed or affected negatively by hearing about other people's personal issues. This is very prevalent in the social care line of work, as professionals are constantly dealing with vulnerable people going through stressful situations in their lives.
James gave the example that he had worked very closely with a woman who had escaped domestic violence. She had made James aware of this while she was still in the relationship. After James came back from a break, he got the news that her husband had violently attacked her and she was now in hospital. She then left him and became homeless. James said that hearing the details of this case had affected him very deeply and caused him great trauma.
A professional identity is the image a person has based on the way they perform a job or operate within a career field. It can also be identified as the individual's self-definition as the member of the profession, and is associated with the enactment of a professional role. Each professional has a different professional identity and therefore deals with situations differently.
As a professional, James alluded to the fact that in his early days working with homelessness, he had to place people in caravans on the side of the road. This was not the conventional thing to do even then, but he is still proud of the fact that he made the best of the resources that were available. As a professional, he utilised the means very well, and this showed his dedication to the role.
Evidence-based practice is a process where the practitioner combines well-researched intervention with clinical experience and ethics. This gives the service users the advantage of a knowledgeable and ethically bound professional.
James did not leave too much value on evidence-based practice. This is because he got his education primarily from going out and working on the ground. Through this, he gained all of the skills that eventually made him a manager in his centre. He made the observation that he learned more from working directly with people rather than going to college or reading about it.
Self-care is defined as any intentional actions to take care of your physical, mental and emotional health. Good self-care can be a challenge for some people, but it is especially important for any social care workers, as we are working with vulnerable individuals in challenging situations on a daily basis.
James took care of his mental health during the 40 years in social care by having a keen interest in all sports. He went to local sporting events, watched a wide variety of sports on television and partook in Gaelic football. He regularly swam and still does in his retirement. He has made a huge effort throughout his life to spend a lot of time with friends and family. He also stated that he could not stress the value of peer supervision enough.